Welcome to Trucker Talk Radio. Welcome in. You're on with J and J. I'm John. This is Justin. It is Thursday, March 6th. Can't believe it's already the end of the week.
And yeah,
Um,
that's busy.
it's a fast one, man. Been just busy nonstop, nonstop. Can't catch a break. So, but that's good. That's good. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I am too. I'm always like a busy week. We'll be ready for the weekend to kind of sit back and relax. But been productive so far this week, and been a lot of entertainment on the television too.
Yeah, our last show we got off real quick to watch President Trump and his congressional. What do they call it? Congressional address or
Senate address.
okay. Yeah, addressing Congress or yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, so what do you think of his speech? He was not holding back, that's for sure.
He was, and I liked it for that. He was, on point. He let them know when he was right on stuff. He did a lot of his wins that he's done in what the first 6 weeks. I was, didn't blame him. I mean, he's went through hell and back. He does deserve to pat himself on the back a little bit. I liked his vision. I know a lot of people might not, but I liked what he's talking about. I like all his ideals of his negotiating. But I have to tell you, man, and I know me and you've talked about this as soon as it went off air. I don't know how you can be a Democrat right now. I mean, I'll be totally honest.
There are a lot of Democrats saying that. How do you not stand up for a 13-year-old boy
I
who
don't know.
had brain cancer? I think they've got a lot of problems, and the people that are fighting for them are just when you confront and when you and ask them questions. Number one, they get super defensive, but number two, it's all about hating Trump. They just hate Trump.
The hatred is terrible. It is.
It is, and you can't stand up. I'm sorry, but any guests that come in there, you are there because the people voted you in no matter what side of the aisle you're on.
That's right.
And the people are being represented as guests in the House, and you can't stand up and acknowledge them.
For any of those people that came up. I mean,
And the little boy is the worst. I mean, definitely, the parents of fallen victims, and I get some of it. I get if you're on the left and but still their daughter was killed by illegal immigrants. You don't stand up and at least applaud that lady who lost her daughter. I mean, I don't care. I just don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That's just common decency.
it is. It is. It's to a point. I think if you're a Democrat, you need to look at maybe having a new party and completely changing.
Well, I've heard that they said one of the anchors on the news said the Democrat Party or one of a guest said you should file bankrupt. The Democrat Party should file bankruptcy. They should just file bankruptcy and start over, essentially. You
They
know.
should, but the middle ground left, not the far left, but the middle ground, the what the original Democrat Party was. I think they need to break off. I do think they'd probably take some of the Republicans if they did that and started a third party because I don't know how if you have any, in my opinion, being raised right growing up. I don't know how you can be proud to call yourself a Democrat right now with the way they acted. There's no problem with them protesting. When it's their turn to speak to say that what they believe in and what they don't believe is correct. What Trump's doing, that's okay. And there's places for them to do that at the Senate, at the House of Representatives, and things like that. But when you can't be a human being, much less Democrat, American, Republican. But you can't be a decent human being for a kid that's got brain cancer, 13 years old, or even the young man that Trump got accepted into the military academy. That
Right.
kid is a genius. Why
Yeah.
would you be proud that a kid that smart wants to invest in the military when I mean yeah his I mean and acknowledge that his whole family has sacrificed 4 generations. I mean, my family is Navy. I'm not a military person, but my both my grandfathers were both in the Navy. My mom didn't have a childhood. She
Yeah.
bounced so many different ports. And so if you got 4 generations doing that, no matter what branch of service it is, that's worth a clap for
You
nothing else.
stand up. You stand up and applaud, and then
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like what Al Green did. at the beginning there, where they had to kick him out. What a joke! And he's waving his cane around like a maniac. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, I just the disrespect is just gone way too far.
It has.
And these people are holding up signs, childish signs like "false," that's false, or
Or
"Trump pay your taxes," or I mean, it's a joke. They're making a mockery of themselves.
well,
It's
did you
awful.
did you see what happened with him today when they did their little session, censoring Al Green?
Yeah, and then they were singing a song, right?
Yeah.
They were like harmonizing or something.
At least 10 Democrats had enough sense to do the right thing and was able to pass that to have it that way. But it's just like, they're just so far gone. And Trump said it right. It don't matter what I do, I'm not going to make this side of the room.
Well, he came out swinging. He's like, look at him; they're not going to stand. He came out swinging. He didn't hold back. He proved that he's working on things. He's trying to get things right. He brought up the price of eggs, which it's the flu. It's the bird flu. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it.
No,
Half of our egg supply had to be thrown out, if not more than that.
yeah, that's why they're telling you right now to have country chickens in your backyard so you can get your egg count back up. And
Yeah, there's companies out there now setting them up for people.
yeah, I can believe it. I used to see about 2 years ago during COVID, or even a little bit during COVID, maybe 3 years ago, these farmers that have their little roadside stands where you can go in, you can buy a dozen eggs, leave the money. Now they've actually got egg vending machines where you go and put your credit card to it, and it'll have like 30 or 40 boxes, and it'll open up like a post office box, and it'll open up, and you'll get 24 hen eggs for like five or six bucks. Because that same thing at the grocery store, I seen them day before yesterday, $29 for 24 small eggs or some ungodly amount. It's just crazy, but they'll blame just like everything else. It's always Trump's fault. Trump's not.
Yeah, you never brought up the price of eggs when we had sky high inflation. You never brought it up once. You never brought up the price of milk. You never brought up any of that stuff. And then all of a sudden, Trump gets in office 3 weeks later. You're like, oh, throw up your hands. I mean, what's going on with all these eggs?
Yeah, I seen somebody ask him the other day, well, why hasn't the things you done fixed the food price? Well, you can't fix that in 6 weeks. I mean, come
Yeah,
on. That's
yeah,
a process.
it is
But
a process. Yeah. Well, he's doing good things. I mean, I saw today, or was it yesterday? CMA and CGM is going to invest $20 billion in U.S. shipping. I mean, he's getting these companies. He's got Apple investing 500 billion. He's got the Honda plant coming to Indianapolis. He's doing it smart. Yeah, I mean, this is what he did the first term, and now he's just continuing on it. And now he is smarter. I think he's got the right people in place. I'm really excited to see. I mean, and you wake up every morning and it's just like, I mean, something new is happening. I mean, he's just got ridiculous energy about him, and I think that's part of the problem. The Democrats just don't know. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to fight them on, what not to fight them on. They don't know how to stop them.
no, they're two steps.
There's just so many things coming at them that they just get.
Well, and one thing I think's funny, the common denominator to all these things happening is the one thing that the Democrats complain about the most, and it's the tariffs. The tariffs are creating all these opportunities. Just like today, I seen he delayed his tariffs to Mexico. Well, they didn't want to talk about it in the headlines, but when you read the story, it's because it got the Mexicans going to send like 10,000 troops to the border.
Right. Right.
They like it's because of the.
He is the king of negotiating.
Yep.
He is the king. He holds the cards. He holds the cards. He knows that we're the best country in the world. He knows that all these other countries need us. And look, I mean, and then Zelensky apologized.
Yeah, I seen that.
He apologized for what he did. Democrats didn't have much to say about that. Media didn't have much to say about that, did they?
They don't talk about the losses.
Yeah, no, they don't. They definitely don't talk about the losses. So man, I just hope that they don't. I heard Trump on Rogan. He did it a couple weeks ago, and you could just tell. I mean, he's definitely doing the right things, but you can just tell he's a little nervous too. I mean, he's had so many threats
Yeah,
against his life. You can just tell he's a little. It's. I think it's kind of like Trump when Trump initially got it, although it didn't really phase him, I guess that much. But it seemed like yesterday during that, or I guess it was a week ago when he did the interview. He was he was very uneasy, very, he was nervous a little bit when Rogan brought it up and said, how are things going, and personally, how are things going, and he just kind of got a little choked up, like, politics, this is tough.
yeah,
This is tough. They're coming. He's like, I've had of death threats, if not thousands.
that's crazy.
I mean, he's trying to do the right thing. And what's funny, you talk about, like, Democrats and how the parties changed. What I remember Democrats being is it was the blue collar party. Blue collar party. My aunt and uncle were blue collar Democrat, and they're just crazy far to the left. But I remember them talking like, "We'll only buy American. We're only going to buy
Right.
American." So you have now a president that is all about bringing American manufacturing back.
Yep.
We've got that chip plant, what is what's the name of I forget the name of the company, but
Yeah, that was the
the
first thing I believe, wasn't it?
yeah, that's incredible. I mean, that's going to change everything.
Yeah, that stuff goes to China. That's where all that goes. And for it to come here, and like we said the other day on the show, people have to realize there's going to be sacrifices and things take time. Just like the manufacturing coming. Yeah, we might pay a little bit more for certain things because they're American made, but if you buy American, you build in America, the economy grows. Everybody puts more money in their pockets, which makes America better all the way around.
Yeah,
It's great to go to Walmart and buy the Chinese product for, you know, 45% less because it's, made in mass production in China. That doesn't, yes, that helps your pocketbook when you go to the store, but it doesn't help you a year from now. All you did was save a few dollars. You're not putting more money back because of it, because you're not getting the infrastructure of the country that's backing everything to help. Because if everything gets better and built in America, other things are going to come down
yeah,
and create more jobs. There'll be, more opportunities for people to make more money and more, especially with the way the digital world was went now. The more things that's made in America, the more opportunity it's going to be for the next TikTok star or the next Facebook marketplace guy or the entrepreneur that wants to build something or have something or sell it on the internet, with YouTube or any of those. There's so many more opportunities that's going to come because of it.
right, right. Well, what are you seeing out there in the trucking world? I mean, with spot market rates versus contract rates, what are you seeing?
It's
How are drivers doing right now? From you're like I said, you're more in tune with it than I am right now.
drivers, I think, should be happy. I've got a flatbed guy that's going to do 8,000, 8,500. I believe is what we grossed him this week on a 4.5 day week.
Okay.
He's one of those yes sirs. He just goes and runs.
Yeah, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
It does. He just runs, and when he gets ready to go home, he'll go home for a few days. I think that's a big difference. And he don't mind tarping. He don't mind, chaining up. It's just, hey, send me where the money is. A lot of guys will say that, but when it comes to push to shove, they don't want to do it. But dry vans, it seemed to go up a little bit. We've got a couple of things that I've seen. It was like 225, 230 a mile, which I was happy to see that this week. So I think if we can continue the upward trend, I don't, we say this all the time, the $3 mile stuff for a regular load, it ain't going to happen. But if we can get it to 235 to 250 a mile, in my opinion, dry van guys should be ecstatic. Which if the dry van can get to that range, the flatbeds are going to be even better. So this week has seemed to be better. I don't have the numbers in front to give you exact.
Yeah, no, I mean, Freightwaves has a good article out now on freightwaves.com, and you guys can get out there and see it. It was well, actually, this is from earlier a couple weeks ago, but you can definitely see the curve in the charts starting back from April, there's been a steady increase, slow but
Look,
steady increase. Like I said, I don't think we're ever going to get back to where we are or where we were in COVID. But if at least if we can get, keep adding to it,
yep,
adding a quarter, every couple months helps.
it does. Well, I
So
think too
we're,
the fuel's going to reset itself before long. I think that'll help.
you think rates are going to come down when we see fuel prices
I think so. In my opinion, they
drop?
probably beginning, and then maybe they'll creep back up because everybody's going to be a little bit greedy and go, well, hey, you're saving 75 cents at the pump, so we don't need to give you that. I think it will. I hope it don't, but I would be surprised that it went down because the fuel's definitely going to come down. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's definitely going to. I don't know if it'll get back to the prices that when Trump was in office last time, right off. But I do think once
Right.
he drill,
Well,
baby,
they're opening back that the pipeline, so
that's well
that's good.
that was the start of it going up. As soon as Biden did that, that's
As
when
soon as Biden ended it, it just started going up right away.
it did. It did. So I hope that don't happen, but I think trends would probably show you anytime the fuel goes down, the rates kind of go with it a little bit. But
Yeah,
there's still, even with the way the market is right now, I told a guy this today. There's money to be made. You just gotta want to do.
there's always money to be made. Sometimes you just got to work a little harder than you did last week or last year, depending on what the rates do, and you just can't panic. Like I said, I've always told guys, especially living here in Florida, you see it, and there's a feeling on whether or not you should deadhead out of Florida or put a load on your back. And I think it really just depends on where you're at in Florida and what's out there. I'm always the big thing of like I don't work for free. I don't work for free. I hate deadhead miles. I don't care what it's paying. And the longer you wait, that good rate that you just got going in at 2 plus a mile, the more you wait for an opportunity, you've lost money. So if you're not going to take a load, if you're not going to get fuel money, is what I like to call it,
Right. Yep.
just fuel money getting out, then leave. Don't just sit because the more you sit now, that 225 a mile is going down to a buck 70, and then it's going down to a buck 20, and then before you know it, you've lost it.
Well, and here's a good analogy in what you're saying. You got a house for sale, okay? You're selling your house for $250,000, right? And it's been on the market for 3 weeks, and you get an offer at 235, and your real estate agent says, 235 is the market price. We might could get 240, but 235 is market price. Worst thing you can do is turn it down because now you're going to wait probably 6 months to sell your house. And you have all that carrying cost, and it's no different driving a truck. As long as that truck's sitting there and not doing anything, you're losing money. So find you a quick load, like you say, to pay for the fuel to get out of there, or just go. Don't sit there and say, "Well, I'll wait till tomorrow and see it." So it ain't gonna happen. If it was good, it was gonna be there anyway. So make a decision and move. The more you see it, because that's something else I don't think a lot of people that are not truck drivers don't understand either. Yeah, you can sit a day, but you're burning fuel while you sit there for 24 hours. And you might not burn, as much as you would going down the road, but fuel's money. Every time you burn a gallon, that's costing you money. And, so I agree with you on that. You got to make a decision and go with it. And then,
Yeah,
two,
if you have a store and you're a store owner and you've got your door open for business, essentially your truck is on, your truck is turned on. If you've got your door open for business and somebody approaches the door and they're going to buy, a candy bar or a stick of gum or a soda or something small in your store, if it's a, women's shop, it's a pair of earrings. If it's a sports store, maybe it's just a single baseball. Are you going to turn them down?
yeah, right,
You
exactly.
know,
Well, too, the one thing that I think truck drivers probably need to understand more than anything, you can't, once you book a load or you make a decision to leave, don't go back on the DAT board and see what's out there. It don't matter where you're at in the country. Once you make a decision, you get a load, forget about where you're located at that moment. It's only moving forward. And I think a lot of guys go back and look throughout the rest of the day after they've already got a load. And of course, you're going to find a load that's on their last minute that, hey, they're just trying to get moved, or that good load goes out at 2 o'clock, but you needed to
Yeah.
load at 8 a.m. You couldn't have got that load. You can't wait on that load. You got to make that decision, and don't second guess yourself, because that gets into your head, and psychologically you can beat yourself up with it, and you can't. You made a decision, it was a good enough load, move on to the next one, stay positive. But a lot of them just want to, go. That was always a rule of thumb when I was a dispatcher. I'd have my DAT board out, I'd have 6 or 7 lanes, that I was looking at. As soon as I booked a load, that lane got completely off my screen. I don't want to see it, I don't want to know what's going on. And it's not because I feel like I was going to miss something. I don't need to know about it. I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, yeah. The only time where I'd argue that is if you are booking out far in advance, and if you're booking out far in advance, and and you're a single driver and you really don't have anything else on your plate, and you see something. Now, don't switch for $100 or something like that. If you
Right.
see a load that's paying double what you're getting, or if you see a load that you decide you need to go to another area of the country, but definitely don't give that load back last minute. That's regard if it's within 24 hours, don't leave the broker or customer high and dry and give the load back. That's just wrong. If you book out a couple days, 2 or 3 days, and then after you book the load to secure it, and you find something within a few hours that, oh man, hey, I should take this load. But I say to use that sparingly. I mean, definitely. I mean, if you're going to do it, yeah, it's got to be worth it. I mean, you start switching loads and start dropping loads on brokers, you're going to get a bad reputation real quick, and your name's going to get out there. They're going to put you on Freight Guard. They're going to put you on, Truck Stop Alert or whatever they've got now, and they're gonna put your name. Don't book with this guy.
Yep.
He's gonna drop your load anyway, and that's the reputation that guys at TQL have. I mean, guys in brokerages have. Some of those guys, they are gonna go with the cheaper truck, and they'll go with the cheaper truck for 50 or $75.
Yeah, they will.
And and I can tell you right now, drivers, you don't like how that feels when they dropped you over 50 to $75. So everybody just once you book the truck, I mean, unless, like I said, you got 48, 72 hours to, for them to recover, either, put a new truck on that load. If that's the case, yeah, maybe. And it's got to be for something that's substantial. Don't go just get another load for 50, because 50 to $75. Because oftentimes when you do that, there's something that goes wrong on that load.
Arm will get
Yeah, that all of a sudden you pull up to that shipper, and he's like, "Oh, we gave your load to the driver before you. We don't have anything else today, or you're going to be sitting here for a good 10 hours before we get around to you." It comes to bite you in the ass.
you. Yeah, most definitely. I've heard that one too many times. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I
What
was
were
going.
you talk? You were talking about something earlier today before we got on. You're
Yeah, I was talking to one of my fleet managers today, and he was talking about one of his drivers, and his driver just why he just straight up lied to him about a delivery time, and we got to talking about it, and I told him, I was like, man, that's something I wanted to talk about today, and it was, and I told him, and this is what I want to tell all you guys out there: you need to treat your dispatcher kind of like a lawyer. What you say to him is somewhat confidential. And what I mean by that is, this guy just blatantly lied. And of course, it was too late for the dispatcher, fleet manager, what you want to call him, to work it out smoothly with the broker.
Yep.
Trust your dispatcher. If there's an issue going on, if you oversleep, or you got an issue, you stayed up too late, and like I said, you took a nap or whatever, you just don't want to go, or you met somebody and you don't want to leave right then. Don't wait until or don't say, hey, my truck's broke down, I got to get something worked on it first, and then he looks at your transponder and you're nowhere near a truck stop, you're wherever, and or say, hey, I'm going to be there 3 o'clock at 3 o'clock it's a 4 o'clock delivery, but realistically you're 4:30 before you get there. Let him help you out. He's not going to lie for you. Don't take it that way. But if like you had made an example earlier, if you're going to be 15 minutes late and we know that 2 hours in advance, there's a good chance we might can get the broker to have somebody sit there for 15. It might cost us a few dollars, but that's okay. And it's just just be upfront. Even if you're in the wrong, karma goes a long way. And if
It
you
does.
try to do it the right way, things will fall. You fall into your place at some point. And it was always a pet peeve to me when I was dispatching. Hey, just be honest. Tell me the truth. If you don't want to do something that day, or whatever's going on, or you have a crisis and you just can't move the truck, or you ain't moving it, just let people know so they can try to help.
Yeah, someone's going to catch you in a lie. And the worst thing is when the customer catches you in a lie, and I've told dispatchers this, I've told drivers this, like, tell me the full story so I can essentially litigate or mediate this for you and work it out. And some of it may involve bending the truth, but we got to be on the same page, because if I'm bending the truth a little bit and you're bending the truth a lot to me, and then someone calls you or me and asks for a story, and then they're talking to the other person, and then they're talking to the customer, and then we get caught in a lie, and I'm the one who's got to deal with it, because more times than not the driver's like, oh, they caught us.
I told
And they're like, can you make the call? Because the driver doesn't want to make that call. He's just like, he or she is just like, I'm just going to sit back in my truck. I don't want to deal with this now. Now I'm in trouble. So now I got to do the fighting for you. So I used to always tell my dispatchers, I had this one young dispatcher. He was he still is a hell of a guy. Great dispatcher.
you.
Um, he works for a manufacturer now, but he was just getting started, and I'd have conversation after conversation like, man, just tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. Even if you screwed up, tell me the truth. Let me help you. I've been through it all. I've
Right.
been through it all. I've had to combat like customers, gotten drivers stuck for days on end at Walmart because we missed an appointment. I've done it all. There's not one thing you could tell me that would shock me. So just be honest with me. And he would continue to lie. He would continue to bend the truth. He would continue. I mean, I'm like, tell me everything. And he would tell me like 98% of it. And he's like, well, I pretty much told you everything.
2%
No,
was
you
important.
didn't. No, you didn't. That 2% that you didn't tell me, now I'm in trouble. So let me go and just be honest with me. And I'd have drivers do the same thing. Like, a driver would tell me he was somewhere, and he was running for another company while he
Right.
was on with this current company. And he told me that his grandmother was sick and he couldn't work that day. Well, and he was a frac sand guy. So these customers that are out there, they're constantly keeping an eye on trucks and on the road and whatever. And he's in West Texas, so there's not a lot and he was running locally for this carrier. So he sends the company that I was doing consulting for and driver recruiting for, sends me a message and says, where's Darian? And I said, he's with his grandmother today. Oh, no, he's not. And they shoot me a picture of the side of his door, and it's got their company name and the other company name behind or towards the back of the cab on the sleeper. And the main company name that I was doing work for was on the door. And I was like, you didn't even have this. the smarts to like cover that up. And he's like, well, I normally do. I just forgot. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make it any better. You forgot. And also, you didn't tell me what you were doing. So now I've got them yelling at me. Like, how could you not know this? And
Like
I'm
you're
like,
supposed
I'm not there in Texas.
to. How you supposed to know? First of all, yep. I've had that happen before too, so don't feel bad. It was been a couple
Yeah,
years.
years. Yeah, I mean, so it's just and the driver ended up getting fired. It ended up being fine for me, but I mean that the owner of the trucking company was not happy just because he thought I was lying to him, and I'm like, I'm getting lied to, and then I'm having to come up with, okay, what's my story now?
Right. Well, and two, that happens a lot too. It made me just think about it. How many times have you dispatched a truck? You think everything's fine. You did your mid morning check in, and he says everything's fine. For some reason the customer didn't send you, or broker didn't send you an email or call you. They called the driver. Driver tells them,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I ain't gonna be able to make the appointment." 2 seconds later, boom, you're getting this god awful email. How can you? Why hadn't you told me that he's not going to show up today? And you have no clue, and you're sitting there with a pile of shit in
Yeah.
your hand, going, "What do I do with it?" When all he had to do was just tell him whatever, or don't answer the phone, but don't tell him that if you ain't told me as the dispatcher yet. Call me and say, "Hey, looks like I got stuck in traffic or whatever. I'm gonna be 45 minutes late. I can't make it." But tell me that at noon. I don't need to find out at 2:30 on a 3:30 appointment from the broker. And I don't know how many times that's happened, and it makes you look bad. And it's just like, just communicate just a little. We might make it all right through all this.
Yeah, I've been on both sides of that. I've been on both sides where I've been the broker, and looking for the driver. One time I had a carrier. It was a large carrier. They took a load cross country, loading in like Salinas, California, or Northern California area, going to Pittsburgh, PA. And they took it for an amazing rate, right? Like I'm making like killer money, like $1,000 on the load. I'm ecstatic.
Right.
I'm telling my boss, man, I got this load covered for cheaper than you could ever imagine. Picks up fine. He's like, yeah, let's make sure it picks up first. Picks up fine. And I'm cheering. I'm like, yes, I'm getting a nice commission off this one load. Let's go. And it's supposed to deliver like in 3 to 4 days or 4 days, whatever. And so we get to the fourth or fifth day, and it still has. And I'm getting starting to get excuses from the dispatcher. He's communicating with me, but he's giving me every excuse under the book. Oh, the guy got held up. He's in the shop. And this continues for multiple days. And it's like 8 or 9 days. And I'm like, dude, I got to know where this is. I got to know where this freight is. And he's like, oh, he's in the shop. I'm like, I need a repair invoice. I need something to show that he's in the shop. My customer is irate. And this was a good customer for me. I mean, this was a great customer.
That's how
And so finally it gets to like the 10th or 11th day. And I'm like, dude, you got to come clean with me. What is going on with this truck? I haven't gotten a repair invoice. I haven't gotten anything, any proof, no pictures, nothing. And he's like, well, I put it on the rail and it got held up in Chicago. Yeah. So yeah, so it was on the rail. So then I had to tell my customer, because my customer specifically said for those loads I could not put it on the rail. They told me, like, we realize you can make a lot. The reason why we're paying you this money is because it cannot go on the rail. And then what happens? It goes on the rail. I about lost a customer that day.
I bet. Yeah, that wouldn't have been a fun one. Well, speaking, I got a story back when I was in the lumber, working for my father's lumber company. We had a young guy working for us, and he called in sick one day. I'll never forget it. I was like 20, I was 19, I guess. He called in sick, said his grandfather had passed away, and he's going to take a day or two off to, mourn and take care of some stuff. So he did. Nothing was ever said. I don't think he lived around any of the other guys, or they didn't know him as well, so no one thought anything of it. And he showed back up on a Monday for work. About 2 weeks went by, and this older gentleman come to pick him up at 4 o'clock for work. So
Mm-hmm.
I was out in that area, and he started talking with me, and I didn't think nothing about it. We were just chit chatting, and he said, "Come on, son, we got to go." And I said, "So are you dad?" He said, "No, I'm grandfather." And I said, "You're," and whatever it is, I don't remember it now. I said, Are you say Fred?" Yeah. I went, "Damn, man, you were dead." He said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "2 weeks ago, your grandson missed 2 days of work because he went to your funeral." That man walked back to his car, and he was an older guy. I would say he was in his late 70s. Got
Mm-hmm.
I say it was a cane. He beat the crap out of that damn boy. And he said, "Don't you ever put that on me. I don't need no karma to die." And I mean, he was irate. And that boy didn't show up to work the next day because he was too beat up. His grandpa beat him up to like
I
funniest.
can't tell you, Henny, how many times I've heard drivers say my aunt died and their aunt died twice. I mean, so I've had guys say that their moms died twice. I caught one guy in a lie. He said his mom had died, and I just happened to make a note of it because I was going to send a card and I never got around to it. And let's just say it was like in April. Well, then in June, his mom died again. And I'm like, dude, if you are going to lie about somebody dying, why would you why would you say that your mom died? Like, really, you want that kind of karma on you? You want that coming back at you?
Yeah,
I just don't. That's
yeah.
just sad.
I'd have to find something better than an immediate family member to use for excuse like that because I'm not a superstitious kind of person or anything. But back to what we've done said to you, karma's a bitch. It just really is. It will
It
bite
is a
you
bit. Yeah.
first opportunity it gets. So I try to be as respectful to anybody and everybody as I can. I especially do it because my daughter, I want her to see how she's supposed to be treated and stuff. It was just like the other day. I was walking out of Walmart and go, I didn't have a buggy. We just had, a couple bags. And this older gentleman, he could barely get around. I don't know how he was able to drive. He was shaking and wobbly. Well,
Wait,
he
wait, wait, wait. Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. So before you go on to this story, so what did you call a shopping cart?
I don't know what I say. Cart. That's why I said shopping cart.
No, no,
I would say buggy.
no. What do you say? A
Uh,
buggy? Yeah,
buggy. Pushing the buggy.
a buggy. Yeah. So that's funny because in Kentucky, where I grew up in northeastern Kentucky in Ashland, they call it a buggy.
Well, I'm
They
not that.
call and my mom. Yeah, my mom always called it a shopping cart because she's from the Bronx and she's, New York. New Yorkers are always too good for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I always loved that they would call it. We used to go to the food land and it'd be
Well,
get you a buggy.
hey, you can go to some place.
Get you a buggy, son. Get you a buggy for your mom. And my mom hated it, but I'm like, I love that. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome, and you don't hear that very often. But I love that. That gives me the warm and fuzzies for sure.
You got to remember, I'm only about 3 hours from the Kentucky line, so
That's
we're not far apart from language. But yeah.
right.
So we're walking out, and I'm having a conversation, and I see this older guy, and he's putting groceries in his car, and he's done with his buggy, and he's fixing to, it was over halfway down the aisle to where and I'm thinking as I'm walking because I just walked out, and I'm like, there's no way he's going to be able to walk back with no buggy to hold on to. And 3 or 4 guys walked by him and didn't pay him no attention. And I just stopped. I said, "I got that, sir." And he lit up like a Christmas tree and thanked me 3 or 4 times. And my daughter was going, "Oh," and I'm thinking, yeah, but I'm walking right to it. I'm walking right by the drop off. What's the
Yeah,
big deal? To me, I don't see no big deal out of it. And it's just like, why can't people be like that? I mean, it's
just
just,
common decency, right? I mean, it's common decency.
there's one thing else I was going to tell you about if I can find it on the internet right quick. I can't remember. Did you hear about that teacher being found dead today at his school, committing suicide?
At a school, no.
At a high school. It was around here. I mean, but he had committed, he shot himself. They like at 6:30 in the morning, and they found him right before the bells rang, so they sent everybody home.
Is it at Munford?
Yes, Mumford. That's it, Mumford High School. Yep.
Where's Munford at? Is that in like Nashville area?
Nah, it's north of Memphis, north part of a little bit north of Memphis.
Okay. Yeah, found dead in the classroom. And it was at a high school though, right? I
Yeah,
mean, the worst thing is if it were at a elementary school. I mean, but it's not good either way. But did they say why or
he just was a self gunshot wound from what I read, and it just if you're going to do that, well, why do it at school?
why do it at school? Yeah,
Right. Because he got in early, and I guess some faculty member either heard it or he did it before anybody really got there. Because typically, I know around here, most schools teachers don't get there to right at 7.
right.
Maybe here people might have been there that early, for food or whatever. But I seen that today, and it was local, and I'm just like, I mean, if you're gonna do it, I mean, I understand I don't believe in it, but that gum have the decency. I had a a friend of mine's father commit suicide, and I remember going to the house a couple hours, maybe later on that evening, after everything was gone, and I still remember how that was, and still seeing the blood on the ground, and how you could tell how he was positioned, and all that, and that I don't know, a teenager.
And who was that? Did you say?
It was a friend of mine's father that I grew up with.
Okay.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
had the mom had actually called trying to get me to go over there to see if he was okay. 'Cause he used to, I knew him from coaching ball and stuff, and I wouldn't go over because I didn't want to walk in on it if that's what it was, because it was
Yeah,
just
my wife found my wife's friend found her dad by the bathtub, and I just it's shocking to me the suicide rate in this country. I mean, and that's something we've really got to get a hold of and get mental health taken care of. And I think it has a lot to do with social media, and we're just fed with all this information, and
yep,
everything is just so depressing over there. Everybody's fighting at each other. Everybody's so divided.
yep.
People need I'm a religious guy. I mean, and you can choose your own thing, but I think you need God. I think you need something. you need
Keep believing.
you need you need something to believe in, some hope, faith. And I always tell people, and I've got friends and actually a family member that don't believe in anything, and I'm just like, what have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? If you're wrong, you're wrong. You're still ended up in the same result as if you don't. Like, at least have some idea that you're gonna go somewhere. You're gonna there is some kind of like afterlife to look forward to. And if there's not, there's not. But
Well,
you know,
even if you believe that when you die you come right back,
yep.
I say when you die you see the light, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
when you see the light, that's because you're coming back out of a birth canal, and
Because you came out of birth canal and you're born again.
well, at least believe in that, so you have some hope, because a little bit of hope goes a long way. You
Yeah.
know.
I'll tell you, there is something to that. I mean, they were, I've heard of, like, you hear of like savants,
Hmm.
like people that just know stuff for the sake of knowing stuff. They're like, I
Yep.
don't, they're like, artists and stuff, like composers that just know music. They've never been taught. They know languages. They've never really been taught. They just know it. So there's something to that, I think.
And even going to a kind of in that same direction, have you heard the new theory of like the pyramid of Giza and how they built it?
No, no,
They're not actually pyramids.
they're not pyramids. How explain that one to me?
They are the top of the. I just went blank of the, what do they call the big obsculus or whatever it's called. They're the top of one of them, and they're way underground, and that's what people are saying they are. They're just the top of a obsolete, I believe is what it's called. Damn, my country saying probably, jack that up all the way around. But they're just the top of those big towers, big post kind of like things,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah,
they're just,
I'm looking this up now. I'm not, pyramids are
yeah.
tombs.
I've seen a couple places. posting that now because that's the easiest way to justify that it was their 100 foot, 90% of it's underground, and that's what the burial chamber's in. It's all through that, but it was like the sand is just blown in over the years and just kept covering it up to where you only have the top. Which I don't see how that'd be true because it's not been that many years since Egyptians were ruling the world.
Yeah, and they're made of like big blocks. So they're just saying that it was blown sand.
Well, it's all bleak blocks, but it's straight up to a point.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
So and they're saying it goes down
Hundreds of feet.
hundreds of feet below.
Yeah, so like there's a whole nother Egyptian city and places well underneath the soil or the sand, I guess, rather there. But yeah, that was a new
See,
one.
this is why eventually we need a producer in the background who can just like search this stuff while we're talking
Yep.
about it. I love that when I listen to podcasts and they're like, "Hey Jesse, look this up for us and and find it out." In fact, or I can't remember that name, and then they tell it they can kind of like click in and say, "Yeah, it's this," and
Especially when it comes to like sports, you're trying to
I'm
a
trying to think of names, and I'm awful about that. So it's funny you mentioned that because I was talking to my son, and he wants to get into finance and sales and stuff, and I'm telling him, you need to be presentable. I said, but the one thing you got going for you is that you can talk football. I am so awful with names, and it really like I can talk about like the play that happened. And I saw that play in the game, but I can't tell you who the players are. I'm just
right.
horrible with names. I've got to hear names like 8 times. And he can remember everything. He remembers stats. He remembers. I'm like, if you can talk football, it seems like with guys especially, if you can talk football, you can work your way into a deal and close a deal. You can carry on a conversation. I always end up sitting in the background while guys are talking football. I know the play. I'll talk about the play, but I'm like, oh, I can't remember if that was Jamar Chase that did that, or whoever. If it was, if that was Green who caught that TD pass, and I just don't. I'm not sure. Um, I know my local teams. I know Cincinnati, and that's the only guys you'll hear me mention is Tampa and Cincinnati. Just because those are my teams. But um,
Well,
yeah,
speaking of football, have you heard them talking about Joe Shadeur Sanders?
no,
Yeah, he's supposedly fallen way down the draft list. He's had like six or seven interviews with teams, and they're saying that he just act like he don't care what they think about him. He's too cocky and just
that'll
under.
kill your draft status. I don't know if that Baker or that it was one of those Cleveland QBs. It was quite a few years ago, and they thought that he was cocky, and it killed his draft status. See, there it goes again. I can't remember his name, but it
Well, Cleveland's had 9 million
well
quarterbacks.
that's true. That's true. Yeah, I'm seeing that. Shadur, yeah, his Shadur Sanders assigns the blame for his plummeting NFL draft stock.
Yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't want to look in the mirror. I'm telling you, everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter what business you're doing. Look in the mirror first. Look in the
yeah,
mirror first before you sound you really sound like a moron when you don't just, when people know that it's you. I
yeah.
can't tell you how many times I've heard, not just drivers, got buddies of mine, and they're complaining about something. And I'm like, man, it sounds like the problem is you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I've talked with guys, you've switched jobs like 9 times in the last 3 years, and we can't hire him. And he's like, I just don't understand. It's always something. These carriers just don't get me. And I'm like, buddy,
You're a one
look,
combinator there. That's it.
yeah, look in the mirror. It no matter where you're good. So that means you're gonna quit, and more than likely in a couple months, probably a month, you're gonna be looking for something else.
Yep.
So why should I have our company spend the money and bring you on? I
Well,
mean, it just
yeah, I agree. I'll tell you one sports story that no one ever talks about, and to me, it's probably one of the more important stories that should get told more because of what has happened with Michael Jordan's business career. So, Michael Jordan attended, North Carolina. And one of the major things that he had to go through, and every person that went to school there during that time, they went to speech school and they were taught how to speak with common sense, but knowledgeably and
right.
sound like they knew what they were talking about versus just typical slang talk and all that. And it was with Dean Smith, of course. And
Yep.
Michael, in his first few years of the NBA, he talked about that in a book that I read as a high schooler, and how important that one class was. And then now you think on it, as big as he's gotten, all the business things he's done, that learning how to speak and how to represent himself in a way that, because you're, even as a truck driver, you're no different than Michael Jordan. You're selling yourself. You're selling you what you can do.
I've explained that to guys. You're selling yourself no matter where you are. Present yourself, look presentable when you go into a shipper or a receiver, because you never know if you're on that load, if and you can go in there and be presentable, and then you're going back there and they see you again and you say hi and you shake their hands and you don't bitch while you're on the dock about how long it's taken. It matters. But yeah, you're right. And a lot of sports teams are doing that now. I know Kentucky does it. I know all the big schools do it, but these guys got to learn to talk in front of a camera. I mean, it's kind of like you and me. We got to learn to talk in front of a camera. I'm not really used to this. I've been told I got a face for radio and a voice for radio. So, I mean, I've always been, but I catch myself and I listen to some of our recordings and I'm like, all right, I got to improve upon this. I got to be, clear when I'm talking. I got to, I
Yep.
can't jumble over my words so much. I got to make sure that, that I present myself in a way where we're going to attract listeners. And, so you got to there I go, get constantly be willing to learn, and make adjustments and make changes,
No,
so I
you're exa-
interrupted you there.
it's it's such a major thing because, like you said, you go in there one time, you might make an impression, and they're like, we need, because one thing I think truck drivers don't understand either is, yes, you're all against each other, but 90% of your truck drivers, maybe 80 or so in there, they're not representing themselves very well. So when you do, you really stand out
You
because
do stand out. Yeah.
such a professionalism of it that you make a difference, not even to a customer, but to the company that you're leased on to, or if you're a company driver, who you're driving for. It's no different than what I told my daughter when she played softball. And this is 8 years old, and this is what I instilled in her. People, when you get older and you're looking at a scout's looking at you, they're watching you from the time you get out of the car. You're carrying your bag to the ball field. You're carrying your bag back to the truck at the end of the night. Anytime you go to the concession stand, they're watching because everybody does the same thing playing a sport, same thing doing the truck. Everybody drives a truck. Some might be a little bit better than others, but otherwise, you're driving your truck. It's your truck driver at that point. But what carriers and customers will look at is, like how you said, how you present yourself. What do you look like coming out of the truck? What's your body language like? What's your attitude? How do you speak? Do you speak to everybody with respect, or are you trying to be Mr. Know It All? Those little things can make a huge difference in what type of load that you might get from your per se dispatcher, or what your company might offer you for a dedicated lane that they've got, that
The
they're not.
easier you are to work with,
Mm-hmm.
the dispatcher is going to put you to the top of their list. You're not the only driver in most cases. You're not the only driver that dispatcher is working with, and they're going to prioritize the guys that are easier to work with.
Yeah, 100%. And that trickles down anywhere. If you're a guy that calls in every week to complain to billing about your settlement, they see you and they just throw their hands up, and like,
Yep, here we go again.
But I promise you, and if you've got an issue, definitely call in. I'm not saying that. If there's
Well, and
something,
here, so it's funny you mentioned that real quick because I got a call today about a driver. He was asking about a settlement, and I'm more on the recruiting side on with this company, and working with our app with this company and that kind of thing. But he called today, and said my settlement's not right. And I was like, well, okay, well, what's wrong with it? Well, it's not right. I got charged way too much in fuel. Well, what do you mean you got charged way too much in fuel? Like, you have your fuel receipts? Well, yeah, they're somewhere in the truck. Well, I've got to know the facts. I am total. If your settlement's wrong,
oh yeah,
I will go to bat with you. Even for guys that sign up with Ready App, and I really have nothing to do with the company you're running with and their internal operation. But if you have trouble with your settlement, you can call me or Justin or one of our staff members, and we will go to bat for you to make sure that it's right. But we've got to have all the facts. We're not just going to go to our customer, being the carrier. Not saying that you're not our customer as well. That's why we're going to work for you.
right,
But if we're not going to go to our customer, the carrier, and say, hey, Joe's settlement's wrong. I mean, you don't sound smart. You got to come with facts. You got to make sure, if you didn't get paid on a load, it's like today. He said, "Well, I'm also missing loads." Okay, well, which loads?
yep,
Well, I
got a
don't
load.
have the load numbers. Give me the load numbers that you're missing. I want to help, but you got to feed me with ammunition. I got to have ammunition to shoot the gun. And if I don't have it, I can't help you. I just can't. I can't go to and I don't have the time to go in and dig up and pull documents from you and from everybody else to try and figure it out. You need to come prepared to your dispatcher if you're complaining about your settlement with your loads, with your fuel receipts. Make sure everything matches up. It's like today. So he said his fuel was wrong. He had spent $2,300 in fuel, and I was like, "So you didn't spend $2,300 in fuel?" No, I didn't. I never spent that much in fuel. Okay, so did you spend $2,300 on other things? Did this company advances you? It's not just a fuel card. So did you spend money on food? Did you spend money at Walmart? Did you go to Target? Oh yeah, well I had to get some supplies. I had to go to the laundromat. I had to get some money out. I had to go get some food. I was like, okay, well that's not free money. And do you have receipts for that? Well, yeah, I do, somewhere in the truck. So this money that says fuel, it actually doesn't even say fuel on the settlement. It says advances. Were you advanced 2,300? Well, maybe. It's like, okay, well, 5 minutes ago, you just called me screaming at me saying your settlement was wrong because you didn't spend $2,300 in fuel. If you had read your settlement, it says advances. Did you take a $900 advance and then did you take a $1,400 advance? Well, yeah, I did. Okay, well, that adds up to $2,300. Well, and then he went into his loads. He's like, well, my loads aren't right. I'm like, okay, here, I want to help you,
Hmm.
but go get me the information
Yep.
and present it to me, and then I will go to battle for you.
Well, and that's one I always tell drivers is, and I say this for any company, and I laugh because a lot of companies' billing departments are never great outside of trucking. I'm talking about any kind of, like even my CPA, they have not sent me a bill 90 days in the last 5 years. They'll finally email me at 2 years. Well, you hadn't paid. Well, you got to send me an invoice because I don't know what you're charging me. I can't pay you without that. I mean, I dropped my taxes off this week. I paid them for last year's taxes. And they said, "Oh, we realize it now. We don't have your new address." Okay, well, you've been mailing my taxes back to me every year at this same address. So, not only it ain't always truck companies, but what I always try to tell owner ops is like, look, you are a business. I don't know how many times I'll say that between now and the next 100 episodes, but you are your own business. Do not depend on your dispatcher to take care of stuff. You represent yourself. Keep up with your receipts. Have a folder in your truck for each load, and then at the end of the week, file them away into a different spot. Get you one of those little folders. keep up with your bill of lading. As soon as your load's done, before you leave that parking lot, write your load number on it, put your truck number on it, any other information, but you need those two for sure. Put any
And
other.
send it off too. I can't tell you how many times guys are like, they wait till the last minute to send in all their loads. They're calling the billing department because all their paperwork was due in at 8 a.m. on Tuesday from the previous week, and it's 8:30, and they're still scrambling to get their paperwork in. They're like, "You think I'll
Yep.
still get paid on this?" And that's like, if you turn it in at the time that you deliver, you're not in that position. You're
And
not in that position.
even if something happens, and if you're the guy that I just described, and you're getting everything in within an hour of delivery, you always have your receipts. And for God forbid something happens and you're missing a load, and you don't look at your settlement until 4 o'clock on Thursday, and your settlement's off a load. If you are the guy that is the I's dotted, T's crossed, and you call settlement and go, hey, for some reason this load didn't show up. Here's all my information. Could I get paid tomorrow? I promise you, 99 out of 100 times, they will get you. It might be a separate settlement. They'll get that money to you on Friday
No
because
advance to you. Yep.
because you take care of your work. You're not the guy that's 2 hours late of sending something in or sending me all because
And
what a
you're
lot.
also not, you also don't want to be the guy screaming at them. Like, if they miss a load, company, they make mistakes. They're not trying to intentionally not pay you. They make mistakes. Just be professional with them, be calm, you know, and I'm sure they will do their best to
Oh,
get you that money, even if it's in advance off the next week's settlement, whatever it is, to make sure that your money's right.
yeah, and like you said, you treat them with respect. They're going to respect you back because they're just doing a job just like you are. And but I see guys all the time. Well, you think I can get that money? Well, it's how did you talk to them? Well, yeah, you did this and that. Okay, well then you got a good chance. But if you call them and yelling, it ain't going to happen. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's been a good conversation. I'm going to jump off here and sit with the wife and have a pleasant evening.
All right.
What
Well,
you eating for dinner tonight? Anything good?
yeah. Well, I'm on the carnivore diet, so it's steak.
Oh, steak. Okay.
Yeah.
How's that diet working for you? Is it going well?
Well, I kind of hit a wall where I'm not really losing, and I've got to refigure. I've got to sit down this weekend. I think I've got to buy a better steak.
Okay. So here's because I used to do the HCG diet. And you take HCG drops, and it's like 40 pounds in 40 days, and you can never really sustain it. But you're only consuming 500 calories a day, so it's not the best thing for you. But I did it, and then I put the weight right back on. But anyway, I hit a wall. So they tell you in that diet to eat apples all day long.
Well, after you go to the bathroom.
I guess, yeah, yeah. Eat apples all day long, and then you'll get past the wall, and then you continue on your diet.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
It
maybe we're trying.
might try that because I eat. I'm not the guy that's gonna go spend $25 a lunch and 25 for a ribeye because just even a ribeye is expensive at the grocery store. I mean,
Yeah.
they're like $18 a piece, and it ain't really enough meat to fill you up. So I've been getting
Mhm.
these sirloin steaks, but undoubtedly, I don't think it's got enough fat in them to offset the. And I've done pretty well. I mean, I don't really fudge too much off of it because I don't mind eating meat, but I've got to about 10 or so pounds, and it can't. But they said really. Of course, I hadn't got to start back exercising yet. I'll get to start walking every day. Hopefully, next week it's supposed to be starting warm where I can walk my 4 to 8 miles a day or whatever. I think that'll make a big difference. But I hadn't been tired of the food because I mean I'm just not eating vegetables is basically what you're doing. So I don't miss that. It's not like that's.
So you're just eating a steak, no potatoes, no vegetables, nothing.
I eat steak and eggs every day. Steak and eggs. I'll fry some. I'll scramble some. I'll boil some, and that's.
Do you feel like you're
Yes, I do. I do eat enough where I'm not as hungry in the because my biggest problem has always been I eat at 7 o'clock, and I never can get full. I never get full, and I don't eat a lot through the day
Yeah,
because
that's me. Now I'm in the gym now. I'm in the gym playing pickleball, lifting weights probably 3, 4 days a week.
that'll make a
And
difference.
so, I went through a long time where I was not active, and pickleball has really helped me pick it back up. I just anything where I can be competitive,
Hmm.
love it. And then there's gaps in between games at the Y where I play, and so I can go lift weights. They got the weights are right next to the gym, so it's nice. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I generally go play it somewhere near the house on Saturday or Sunday. So I get 4 days of activity,
Well,
and then I'll go lift weights some Tuesdays. You know,
well
so
that's the biggest problem with what we do, right? And that's
yeah,
why
we sit.
you just sit all day. And
Yeah,
I do look forward, like I said, my daughter will start driving in a couple months, and that's going to free up about 3 hours a day for me that I am going to get back into to a gym and exercise because I don't have that time right now. Because
yeah,
as you on. That's why you'll see me drinking a bottle of water during the show because I've talked so much through the day because I can't leave. I mean, I can carry my phone wherever, but still I'm on the phone, and you're just so inactive that. And even though you don't eat a lot, if you ain't moving around, you can't shed the weight. Now I've not lost a lot of weight, but I've lost inches off my waist. I'm
yeah.
losing, but I'm not losing it in number wise, which I don't know if it's turning into maybe somewhat of a muscle more than fat, but I'm
Yeah, well, that's what it is for me. Like I was losing weight, and then I started lifting, and then I immediately put on pounds. I mean,
there's
that,
a
and that's just going to happen.
yeah.
Now I just got to fix. I've got the activity where I need it to be. Now I just got to get to the diet, and I just constantly want to eat. I just constantly. And with young kids in the house, I mean, there's snack cakes, there's donuts, there's cereal. Love cinnamon toast crunch. It's my favorite. I can eat that any time of the day.
Yep, me too.
And, and I put a banana in there generally to make myself feel better. But
But it is so hard because even here, my daughter has a ton of snacks, and I open the refrigerator, the cabinet, like oh, and my biggest problem is like from 7 to midnight, I'll just keep eating. I cannot find it. And that's why I was getting weight. Man, I'd eat some tater chips, then I'd
yeah,
get a bowl of cream, and you just keep rolling through the night, and it's
yeah,
like,
something that's helped me with that, and I don't know if it works for everybody, but I had a buddy that told me he drinks a glass of milk right before like just before he's going to go to bed, and it satisfies him. It kind of cleanses his palate, and he's no, and it's worked for me for the last couple weeks. It's worked well, and it also helps I get heartburn really bad, especially at night, and that milk kind of calms that down.
I'll try that then. I'm
Yeah,
up for otherwise I'd eat the house down if I had the
I
opportunity.
know. It frustrates me when I see my boys, my college boys, and they're just stuffing their face with whatever they want. They're getting crumble cookie and all this other stuff, and they're just eating whatever they want, drinking whatever they want, eating whatever they want.
They do that till they're about 30, 35, and then metabolism stops, and it's a
Yeah,
whole.
for me it was about 26. Once I got married and my wife, I started eating regular meals, and my wife started cooking. It was over. It was over.
Well, that just tells her she's a good cook then.
That's right. That's right. So, all right. Well, I got to get off here.
All right.
Everybody have a good night. Good talking to you, Justin. I'll talk to you tomorrow, and we'll see you
Sounds
soon.
good. Sounds good. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow, man.
All right. Drive safe out there. All right. Bye bye.